some areas and wanted to privatize. And even, Mr. Speaker, in that privatization, they wanted to give out, for example, Chemelil, without telling us who was taking over to do with what. Yet we wanted that nucleus to remain a sugar belt. Not somebody would have taken the lease and maybe planted potatoes or planted tomatoes, yet it was not the wish of the farmers from the Kisumu. And I'm happy that Senator Professor Tom Agenda, in conclusion, is now facing and holding the bull by the horns. But I'm afraid that the party leader of your party leader might not be the same page with you. But let us hope for the best in future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Nyutu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And I think I rise to support the statement by Professor Tom Agenda, particularly regarding the decline in production of sugar in his county. And Mr. Speaker, personally, I do not come from a sugar growing area. I come from Muranga. But I rise to support that statement because the issue affecting low production of most agricultural goods, Mr. Speaker, cuts across. And mostly, Mr. Speaker, it's about the cost of production. And this affects not only sugar, but affects also coffee and tea that are major cash crops of Muranga County, where I come from, Mr. Speaker. And I'm glad that the current regime has promised that it is going to make sure that the cost of production comes down, Mr. Speaker. And I think as the committee addresses that, I think the major thing that we should do is fast track on reduction of production cost, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of cartels in marketing of agricultural commodities must also be addressed as we look at the low production, Mr. Speaker, because I think farmers are demotivated because of the low prices or the low yield, the low income that they continue receiving from agricultural products, Mr. Speaker. I remember sometimes last month in Muranga, we had some professionals that was taking us through and telling us why the farmer was not benefiting from his sweat. And we got very shocked, Mr. Speaker, that some companies have registered as coffee marketers using one name. Then they take another name, they register another company. The same people register another company as a buying company, Mr. Speaker. And so the seller becomes the buyer. And so the price, Mr. Speaker, is compromised. I do not know whether that is the same thing that is happening with sugar, but I think as the committee looks at that, I think that is something that they may want to know whether the same thing happening, where somebody converts themselves into a seller and converts themselves again into a buyer using another company, Mr. Speaker. And I think as that issue is looked at, let us see that the cartels are also arrested, Mr. Speaker, so that the farmers of sugar, coffee, tea, milk can gain from their sweat, Mr. Speaker. And so I support especially the issue of low production of farmers of sugar in Kisumu and farmers everywhere, because it cuts across, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you. Senator Kadri Nmumu. It's okay now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this. I rise to support the statement by Professor Tom Agenda who is my senator from Kisumu. And Mr. Speaker, even as I support, I would want to urge that the committee that will look at this issue should for once depoliticize the addressing of problems of farmers in the sugar industry. Mr. Speaker, sugar farmers in this country, whether they are from Kisumu, Mutembei, Migori, Kakamega, Busia, Bungoma, Nandi, are all suffering because we have politicized the management of the sugar industry. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the parastatals around the sugar factories actually collapsed. Most of these sugar factories are leased to private actors, and those private actors are not better than what the parastatals were. Mr. Speaker, every time we stand as politicians to speak about the sugar industry, we speak at each other. I can see the statement is asking the governor to give some answers, answers that the governor might not have. Because as you know, the sugar industries, Mumias, Nzoia, Busia, were in the hands of the national government. And by the time devolution came, most of those sugar factories had actually collapsed. What we have not done properly is to find out what the Kenya Sugar Research Foundation found out on the viability of farming sugarcane in the manner that we do in Kenya. We have not done that. We politically cheer on farmers to proceed and plant sugarcane in acreages that are not viable. So they are we assume they're going to make profit when they know they're not going to make profit, because it is not politically correct to tell them that they may not make profit. We have not put enough funds in the research to be able to design our sugarcane farming in a manner that it can be profitable, like in the countries in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, we must stop the political blame game across politicians who don't know how to farm. In fact, who farm as telephone farmers and cut the queue and get paid anyways because they're politicians. But we have farmers who are suffering. I suggest that committee should take this issue seriously. It should do a proper research, a historical research on what happened with Kenya Sugar Research Foundation, Kenya Sugar Authority, how the sugar factories were transitioned, what is owed to the farmers, how much land of the nucleus has been grabbed, and let us have this candidly looked at. Mr. Speaker, I believe if sugarcane farmers focused, I'm finalizing, I know you want to caution me, but I just thought I should put